All right. Welcome. Good to see some familiar faces and some new folks today. So welcome. My name is Megan. I am the coordinator of CODEPINK's China's Not Our Enemy campaign. And what we're doing is essentially trying to stop an escalation of conflict with China and to reallocate resources away from militarization of the Asia Pacific, away from misinformation campaigns around China, and towards things that we need here in the US, life-affirming programs, education, healthcare. And recently we took a CODEPINK community trip to China, where we went around the country with about 10 CODEPINK volunteers, CODEPINK activists, and we just explored China, and it was a beautiful trip. A couple of us are here today, and after that ended, Susie and I decided to go on a little bit of a solo adventure in central China. So it was kind of a coincidence that we ended up going to the same area. I think we were both very excited, very attracted to the whole panda situation. So we wanted to go visit the pandas, and it kind of took us from there to other parts around central China. So I'll share my screen. All right. So I will give you a little bit of an overview about central China before we get into our individual experiences. So central China is comprised of some provinces, including Hubei, Hunan, Henan, and parts of the Sichuan province. It's known as the heartland of China. It has fertile plains, major river systems like the Yangtze and the Yellow Rivers, and lots of agricultural output. So the region has many Chinese civilizations with capitals like Luoyang and Wuhan, and it played a very, very pivotal role in China's history. So you'll find really very iconic landmarks such as the Three Gorges Dam, Zhangjiajie National Forest Park, Shaolin Temple, and it's also very important economically as it is a hub for manufacturing, agriculture, transportation, and big cities emerging as tech and industrial centers. Um, and it also has a very, very rich and diverse culture, um, spicy cuisine, especially in Sichuan and Hunan. So our journey brought us through a number of cities in central China, including Chengdu, Chongqing, Guilin, and Susie went up to Xi'an as well. And these cities have long, complex histories, but have all collectively experienced really pretty remarkable growth over the past few decades, driven by economic development, urbanization, and new government policies. So starting off in Chengdu, which you'll see in the right map, the capital of the Sichuan province. So the population of Chengdu has grown from around 10 million in 2000 to over 21 million in recent years, making it one of China's largest cities. Its GDP has also grown significantly from around 100 billion to now over 1.7 trillion Chinese yuan. The city is very well connected with over 500 kilometers of a metro system, and it's also a key point in China's high-speed rail network. So the Sichuan province is very well known for its giant pandas, which are not only, a national treasure of China, but they're also a symbol of China's efforts for wildlife conservation. So here are a few interesting facts about pandas as well. So pandas, they live in the mountainous regions of Sichuan, particularly in Qingling, Zhonglai, and Minshan mountain ranges, because these areas are very cool, and they're very bamboo rich, which is what pandas eat. And there's been a lot of conservation efforts to protect the giant pandas for example, the Chengdu research base of giant panda breeding is one of the most famous panda conservation centers in the world. It successfully bred a number of pandas, which has contributed significantly to their survival. There's also lots of efforts to reintroduce these captive bred pandas into the wild. Um, so Sichuan is home to about, they estimate around 1,864 giant pandas that live in the wild. And over 80% of them reside in the Sichuan province, so a great majority of them. And recent data says there are about 500 pandas in captivity worldwide. So, and a number of those are housed in Sichuan's various panda bases and research centers. So, as you know, pandas, they feed primarily on bamboo, and they consume about 84 pounds daily. They're generally solitary animals, with each panda marking its own territory, but they do communicate with each other vocally and through scent markings. So the giant panda is, of course, a cultural icon for China. It's also a symbol of peace and friendship. Pandas are used often for diplomatic efforts known as panda diplomacy, and China loans pandas to other countries as a gesture of goodwill. And here in DC, we recently received two pandas as part of that program. I'm excited to go see them. Um, so, despite conservation efforts, pandas they face threats from infrastructural development, climate change, agriculture, and habitat destruction. They also have very low reproductive rates, which makes these breeding programs really crucial for their survival. They say that pandas are fertile only about 2 to 3 days a year, so it's difficult. Um, but the Sichuan province, they're very committed to panda conservation, and it's become a global leader in its efforts to protect the panda. And it's become almost its entire identity, it seems, as you'll see. Um, so let's get into that. Upon my descent into Chengdu's regional airport, I think the first thing that struck me was, oh my gosh, there's panda stuff everywhere. Like, you know where you are. You are in the panda capital. Like, you could not turn a single corner without being bombarded by pandas. It was very exhilarating. And this photo I took on the right of all the pandas in a store, just I found it so funny. I think they were worried about running out of pandas. So, um, you know where you are. So, these are some photos from the Panda Sanctuary, and both Susie and I visited it on different days. Um, I the sanctuary is enormous, and you can see the map at the bottom and central bottom. It took me like a couple hours to walk the whole thing, and each panda has like a giant area for itself, and some of them are just laying about, and some of them are like a bit more playful. They say that they're a bit more playful in the cooler weather, and it was pretty cool that day in November. And all the tourists are walking around with panda memorabilia. So I got those panda pom-pom thing for the head and took some selfies with it. And I thought this group in the middle was so cute. They're called the Panda Explanation Team. So when you go in, you can hire a panda explanation team to take you around and teach you about pandas. I was also super impressed by the amenities. You could get a panda mineral water mystery box. So it was a mystery which panda you would get on your water bottle. Um, and this, I took a video of this because it impressed me so much. I'll show you. I tried. This is the toilet in their public bathrooms. First of all, they were heated and they had all these buttons of different functions that you could do. I had never seen such a high-tech toilet in a public bathroom ever. So you can tell they're really putting in the time and the money to make the Panda Research Center the best it can possibly be. Okay, another one of my favorite parts of the Panda Sanctuary was that they have specific photos of all the pandas, their names, and a little blurb about the personality of the panda. So it was really fun to just go through and read about all the different natures of the pandas. So you have Yuan Yuan, which has a trademark puffy face and a gentle nature. And I thought Kunyan was quite relatable. Kunyan is quite independent and prefers to be alone. Um, Beixia has a pair of eyes that seem so clear and bright, piercing. He is energetic, fond of climbing, and firm-minded. So all the pandas are like their own individuals essentially, and they have their own homes and their own uh personalities. I just thought it was adorable. So here's some more photos I took in Chengdu and the older areas with the lanterns and the lights. I was there over Thanksgiving. So on Thanksgiving, I decided it was necessary for me to go eat spicy hot pot, which is one of the uh, region's cuisines. And it was so delicious, but it was so hard to eat. And I'm not sure I ate it right, to be honest, because I think you're supposed to dip it in something after the pot, and I just ate it right out of the oil. But they provided me with a giant plate of watermelon, as you can see in the top left, to help me eat it, and it was good, and it was a good Thanksgiving meal, even though it's definitely not the it's I think hot pot is a better of a shared meal, and I was by myself, so. This is the coolest Didi I ever took. Didi is the Uber of China. And this was my Didi driver in the center. He had it sort of like a disco, and I thought it was really fun. And he had a bunch of journals people have written it in it over the years. And the one in the top right looked like it was from a child. It says, Baba wa ni, Daddy, I love you. And then I decided to leave my eternal mark and drew this sophisticated panda for anyone to see in the future. And this photo I just thought was really funny is that this person was cleaning this specific spot on this specific building. Yeah, I think that. Oh, no, I have a few videos. Oh, these are of lights in Chengdu. China loves its lights, and they're really good at decorating. I was mesmerized by this. And then also it was Christmas time, so they were very well decorated for Christmas, and I loved it. All right, and here is a video of they had this. You might have seen it. It's like a sort of a 3D panda installation on the side of the building, and you can see everyone walking around with just all this panda stuff. This is another giant panda they have on top of the building, which is a cultural landmark in Chengdu. Okay. And also I did a lot of shopping in Chengdu, and I thought this pink store was really cute because it's called Chick Park, but I thought, oh, CP, code pink, code pink. So I took some photos of that. And this is the most giant Stanley Cup I've ever seen in my life. It was as tall as me. And a bunch of people were taking photos of it. So the Stanley trend has made it to China. And then this photo on the left is this. I met this girl coming out of one of the stores that I was in, and she was excited to see a foreigner. So we started talking for a little bit, and she told me she had never been to the US. And I was like, oh, you should go. You should go to the US. There's lots of cool places to see. And she was like, oh, no, I would never. I'm too scared. They have guns over there. But she was really cute. All right. Let me stop sharing, and Susie, you can start sharing.
Hi everyone, I'm Susie. Nice to see you all. Thanks for being here. I think some of you were on the trip, some of you know China very well. I am just gonna share my little deck. 1 second. Um, I'm gonna share here. Thanks for your patience. And so I went first to Xi'an, which is a little bit further in the north and was still a bit chilly. And I actually went to go to see, I was told you've got to go and like understand ancient China. So you've got to go to this incredible museum. However, because I was a little disorganized, it was only when I arrived in Xi'an I realized there was a week waiting list to get into the museum. So I actually didn't end up making it. But I did explore the city. Here, as I'm sure many of you know, depending on what site you're going to, people will get dressed up in the outfit according to the dynasty. So this in the middle, oops, sorry, is the ancient city wall that I think is about 13 kilometers in the middle of the city. And so people go and do photo shoots, and it's from the Ming Dynasty. And it's, it was sort of winter season there. And you can see that everywhere you are, this is sort of the view from up from the wall, just gorgeous leaves everywhere. Um, Also, Xi'an is known for its beautiful ancient Muslim mosque, as well as the Muslim quarter. There's a lovely night market. I gather it was a sort of hub, a key hub in the Silk Road. And this mosque is sort of, in some ways, it's got sort of Chinese architectural elements, but it's also got all sorts of Islamic elements as well. And it was sort of busy at night, a real sort of attraction. Then I had heard about this. I had sort of asked about what's the dating scene like in China? What do people do apart from sort of meeting through chats? And I heard about these gatherings in parks. And basically people, I don't speak the language obviously, but people will put basically it's like dating ads. And I'm going to put a little video and hopefully you can hear the audio. I don't know if you can hear the audio.
No, I can't hear it.
Oh, that's sad. Okay. Well, basically, this is on a Saturday afternoon in the park. The pink is for the ladies who are advertising, and then the blue is I think, might as well be in this gorgeous park. And I'm basically saying, isn't it nice rather than swiping in an app to be out in the park? And it was like super busy, super busy. So it was fun to see. Again, the leaves everywhere were gorgeous at this time of year. Okay, maybe we can get I'll go to the next. Sorry, I'll go to the next thing. Then I'd also heard about these community centers, which I was very excited about. So they have these very high-tech modern community centers in all the neighborhoods, and I just stumbled upon one by accident, and I'll show you a little video from there. And essentially, if you're, say, a food delivery driver, you can go there and have a rest. You can charge your phone, have a shower, you can take a class. There's like a little kindergarten area. Older people would come and take classes. Younger people would sometimes come and study. But it's, where I live in London, the community centres are a bit shabby and depressing. And these were just, they welcomed me in and it was great. Okay, let's see. So this is, I finally was going to leave Xi'an to go to Chengdu. I'm sorry you can't hear the audio, but I'm basically saying.
You can sort of hear it a little bit.
Oh, okay, you can. Okay, I won't talk over it then. So hopefully I will do okay, but it's a very nice train station. It's actually quite chill. At every train station, at least maybe the bullet train stations, you have rows and rows and rows of those massage chairs. It's not like just like too overpriced. It's like as far as I can see, you've got massage. Oops. So I don't know if you could hear that, but I was just saying how sort of peaceful and quiet the oops. Hold on, let me keep sharing. The bullet train station was, not like a super stressful experience, just very chill. Okay, thanks for your patience. Let me get out of that. Oh, hold on. Okay, now I'm gonna show you more. So this, okay, Megan talked about the wonderful panda spot. Then, again, you can go to fancy parts of town and the pandas are everywhere. People are dressing in all sorts of panda outfits. So also in Chengdu, what I really enjoyed was visiting a couple of the Zen Buddhist temples. So this is Wengshu Temple, and you can go, and apart from like seeing all the beautiful actual sort of you know, Buddhist classic sort of bits, you can also go and do calligraphy and have tea, meditate. So this was just like on a Sunday afternoon, people just, rather than getting the Sunday blues, they were sitting, having tea, doing calligraphy together. And let's see if this works. This is just a quick thing.
I'm not hearing anything if there's audio.
Yeah, so no, just saying like people are sitting there. So I joined and actually made some friends there. And you know, people were very friendly. So, you know, I would sit, had tea, made a friend, then visited some more. So this is like again the insane leaves everywhere we went. It's just I had heard about the cherry blossoms in Japan, but I didn't realize the leaves were such a thing. So if you do go, I highly recommend going to see these incredible leaves. This was at the temple, so we could get the lovely hot pot that Megan talked about. It was a bit too spicy for me. This was a lovely lawyer that I met just waiting in line, and she said, "Oh, come, let's have lunch." And then we talked about what it's like to be a lawyer in Chengdu. And she said Chengdu's pretty chill. She says that life is not super for her, at least. I was surprised to hear a lawyer saying that. This is us having lunch. This is some street food. These were a sort of pancake that was super tasty. Amazing food in Chengdu. I gather it's like super well known for the food. This is more yummy food on the bottom left. This is what I'd have for breakfast. This was another sort of food in a temple, which is the tofu and veg. Oh, I found like a vegan buffet as well, all you can eat vegan buffet, which was amazing. Again, more tea. Oh, and then this is travel. So on the left is like, I don't know which class this is in the bullet train, but it was the very fancy class. The regular class was amazing. Also on the right, you'll see that it was really noticeable that in the train stations and airports, there isn't like completely, you're not bombarded with ridiculous ads all the time. There would often be like pictures of nature and scenery. So I think this is the metro. I don't know if you can hear anything. Some sort of green health, convenient, Chengdu Metro, good service, and very nice. You can't really see these one stations are really history. Well, I just got my subway ticket. This is 20, I think it's a day pass. Oh my God, everywhere. The rules. This is basically a subway. There was a panda subway. Okay. So that was that. Oops, we saw that already. Okay. Then yeah, so street style is great. I gather that there's a chic look that the ladies are into, which is this sort of winter white. It's considered just clean. So it was fun just seeing people dressing up, as Megan said, big thing. So on the middle and the left, they were going to some special event, I gather. Then on the right, I stumbled upon this amazing street, this street just of dress up shops. And it was a lot of fun. So I don't know again if you can hear me getting very excited about this dress up shops. Inadvertently stumbled on the most insane dressing up shop. And I don't want, it's like, where do you even begin? It's like one street of like super cool dress up shops. Insane. It's a whole street like this. It's a whole street of party clothes. Only to rent, which is very sad. I mean, they're only to rent, sadly. You just want to dress like this every day. Why not? Yeah, look at the clothes. Insane. So this is where people who you would see in those photo shoots at the historical sites, they would go and rent the clothes for different historical periods. Sadly, you can't buy them. These are just out and about, people with dogs. I met the folks on the right at a temple and then bumped into them again later that day. And this last of all, just talking about traveling solo. So everything was great, but like in any part of the world, when you lose your phone, or well, I lost my phone and then people found it, which was great. wouldn't ever happen here. Everyone's heard my story 1,000 times. But this was in my last couple of days. I had an issue with my SIM card and I couldn't get online. I couldn't use my phone or anything. And my flight was delayed. I needed to buy a new flight. And these ladies at the desk, and this lady on the left who was just going on holiday with her boyfriend, spent like an hour with me, helping me log into their phones, log into their email, all sorts of things. But basically, each of them spent an hour with me sorting me out, and it was such an example of what Jodie has called like a trust society. Like I just felt like I could lose my phone, I could not have access to the internet, I could have not access to money, and that I felt like people just be patient and offer to help. So yeah, I had a wonderful time. The bullet trains were amazing. The nature was amazing. People were so friendly. The food was ridiculously good. I'm sure many of you have been, but if you haven't, I would just like get over there ASAP. It was so nourishing, especially when things can seem so bleak. It was just so restorative and just yeah, really, really good for the soul. Back to you, Megan.
Thank you, Susie. I will share my screen again. All right, so my next destination was Chongqing, China's futuristic megacity. So Chongqing is one of China's four direct-controlled municipalities. It's high-tech, dynamic. It's become increasingly popular for tourists. You might have seen it going viral on social media as of lately. It's sort of maybe definitely a contributing factor as to why I decided to go. Um, but some facts about Chongqing. So Chongqing has grown from about 30 million to 32 million people in 2023. Its GDP has skyrocketed from 160 billion to 2.8 trillion Chinese yuan. It's a major industrial and manufacturing center, particularly for electronics and for automobiles. So Chongqing is very heavily invested in infrastructure, including the Chongqing Jiangbei International Airport, which is one of the busiest airports in all of China. And the city's metro system has expanded very rapidly as well, with over 400 kilometers of track as of recent. So Chongqing is a very crucial hub, especially for the Belt and Road Initiative, with the Chongqing-Xinjiang Europe Railway providing a link between China and Europe. And the Chengdu-Chongqing Economic Circle is also very important. In recent years, the government has prioritized its development, aiming to integrate the two cities into a single economic zone. And the initiative focuses on, enhancing transportation links, promoting industrial collaboration, fostering innovation. And so both cities have undergone very rapid urbanization with significant investment in smart city tech, green spaces, lots of sustainable development projects. So the growth of both Chengdu and Chongqing, underscores their importance as economic and as cultural centers in China. And they both drive, regional development in central China and contribute to China's overall progress as well. So I decided to go to Chongqing. I think my initial expectations were automatically surpassed. I was expecting like, oh, it's just, it's another city in China, but Chongqing was just absolutely spectacular. I cannot explain it more than that. I was so blown away immediately. So on the left here, on the bottom left, you'll see a photo that I took from the top floor of the hostel that I was staying at. So this hostel was on the 31st floor, and you could look out and see the entire city essentially. And I think it was honestly the best hostel I've ever stayed at, or at least one of the top three. Right away, I was greeted by the owner and his wife, and they were just their energy was so warm and so welcoming, and I just felt automatically like, oh, this is so like this is the coziest like homey vibe kind of hostel, and I was just so excited to stay there. And I had gotten sick one day as well, and I came back to the hostel. I was like, I'm not feeling well, and the owner, they were so concerned for me, and they brought me upstairs and they sat me on their couch and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna make you some special tea and help you feel better." And they asked me all the questions about how I was feeling, and um, it was so nice. To be sick, I think, and alone, in a country other than your own has a bit of fear. I'm kind of a baby when I get sick, so I was just so touched by it. Anyway, so you can see the city map of Chongqing, central Chongqing, on the right top corner. Very, very big area and lots to explore. And here's one of the videos of the skyline. Are you kidding me? That is so cool. It's like computer code. I don't know if you could hear me, but I was saying it's so cool, and there's like computer code going up on the skyscrapers and mountain scenery, and it was all like that. So I was kidding me? Surprised. It's so much cooler in real life too. I just remember I felt so small, like it was just enormous, and I was tiny, and it was overwhelming. So Chongqing Gongyuan, this is one of the parks that uh, is central in the city. It's sort of on a hill, so you kind of have to climb up, but once you're at the top, you have like these amazing panoramic views of the city. And this is honestly one of my favorite places I went in on the entire trip. It was just filled with all these perfect moments. And I tried to capture some of them, but there's so much going on, so much life being lived. Like these girls that were graduating, taking graduation photos. There was the ping pong players. There was the old man playing his erhu, which was so beautiful. I actually shed some tears. I sat there for a while and listened to him. There was the wedding photographs, and then the two married couples playing cards, and then the painter. And the little girl jumping off the rock. There was so much happening here, and I was in heaven. And I talked to one of the ping pong players for a little bit, this older woman, and she was telling me, "Oh, park is really small." Like, I was like, "Small? What are you talking about? This is enormous. This is the most beautiful park in my life." But she was like, "Oh, foreigners think that, but compared to China's parks, it's smaller," which might be true. I mean, China is really the parks is something China does better than anyone in the world. They're just so serene, so tranquil and beautiful. So that was one of my favorite things about Chongqing, which surprised me because I expected it to be all city, and no, this is just this oasis in the middle of the city on a hill. So if anybody knows anything about Chongqing, you'll know that it's very quite complicatedly connected streets. It's kind of like a labyrinth on hillsides. And so this is one of the streets that connected to another street. I had to walk through this building to get from one street to the other. And I'll play the video. So to get from one street to the other, you walk through this building, and there was a magic show happening. It just kind of felt like a fever dream like. Um, And so I walked all the way down from the park to this very well-known platform where one of the metros goes through this building. So a lot of people hang out there and take photos because it's one of Chongqing's tourist hotspots. And I went to this shop on the right to get some Chongqing xiaomian, which is one of the local cuisines. It translates to Chongqing little noodles. It was really good. And this is a selfie I took with someone as we were watching the train pass through the building, and I was eating my noodles. It's an electric bus. Oh my god, it's so cute. Electric taxi. You can tell because the license plate is green, that it's electric. So if I don't know if you could hear that, but that was me marveling at the electric buses and the electric taxis. The little electric bus was so cute, and you can tell when vehicles are electric because their license plates are green. And a lot of China's cars on the road are now electric, so like I would like at least half of them. So it's really cool, and I was marveling at that a bit. Okay, so this is one of the coolest uh spots in Chongqing, um, the cave, Hongya Cave, and it's right on the riverside. So on the far right, this is kind of what it looks like from afar, but then you go into it and there's all these different floors with different shops and lots of dress up happening as well. The girl in the photo there, and there was a waterfall in there, and it was honestly one of the trippiest, coolest places I have seen anywhere in China. Um, I definitely recommend going. It was so cool. I wish I could say more about it than that, but yeah, it was a little bit. It was definitely overwhelming, but just so beautiful. Okay, so one of the highlights of my time in Chongqing was when I went back to where that the cave was. It's kind of on a cliffside, overlooking the river. So you'll have like all these stairs going down, and on top of the cliff, there's a street that's looking out over the river at the skyscrapers in the distance, and they have all these coffee shops there. So I went back and sat at a coffee shop and I was enjoying my coffee and enjoying this dog who was looking at me. He was so cute. Um, and one of the girls, a girl who was sitting, who came also to get coffee, was sitting at a different coffee shop, and we sort of like made eye contact, and she waved and I waved, and then we started talking. She was like, "How did you know this is the best coffee shop in all of Chongqing?" I was like, "Oh, I just randomly came here because it had, I don't know, I had just had good vibes." And so we started talking for a while, and we ended up talking for like hours, and then the sun set, and this is a photo we took together um, on the at the right. Her name is Florence, or Wayla. And then we ended up going to get dinner at in the top right. We got some more sort of hot pot food. So we became friends, and we are still good friends. Oh, this is I told her I'd went to get hot pot by myself, and she showed me this meme that's popular, where it kind of ranks loneliness based on things that you do. So number 6 is like going to KTV, going to karaoke by yourself, and then above that, it's going to eat hot pot by yourself. So I thought that was funny. But yeah, so this is some random selfies that we've taken over the past few months, where we FaceTime. So we're still in contact, and we talk and uh practice our Chinese and practice my Chinese and she practices her English. So definitely one of the highlights of Chongqing was making a good friend. And then a couple last photos that I thought were particularly Chongqing vibes. Um, just really cool, just a little bit trippy and yeah. So after Chongqing, I took the high-speed rail to Guilin. And I didn't have very much time left, but I thought what a great place to end the trip in this beautiful scenic spot. And you'll see the two pagodas in the center, a cultural landmark of Guilin. Lots of lights, and in the right corner, on the right side, is a coffee shop that I went to. And I asked the two workers there, like, "Oh, where should I go?" And uh, they told me the exact spot where I should go, and I followed their directions, and I'm really glad I did. And I'll show you some photos of it later. But I just want to quickly first talk about the China's high-speed rail system, which has developed really quickly and is now extremely well connected. So one of the reasons why I ended up going to Guilin was because going from Chengdu to Chongqing, um, and then back down to Hong Kong, where I was flying out of, Guilin was just sort of a center point between those two. So the whole time we were traveling, I think it's the same for Suzy. We took the high-speed rail. besides our flight into Chengdu. And so, the train in China is super well connected and is super affordable as well. So from Chengdu to Chongqing, which was about 2 hours, $15. Chongqing to Guilin was 40, and then the most expensive one was from Guilin to Hong Kong, which was $60. Um, and I also put some costs of what I spent there for anybody who's curious. The hostels, I stayed at all hostels to save money, and that was about $8 average a night. The average DD, which is Uber, could cost like $5 to $8 for like a half an hour drive to the train station. You can get bottles of water for 25 cents, and then the average meals could be about $5. So overall, very affordable and very convenient. I will also say the trains, they're always on time for one, which continuously impressed me. They have a really beautiful, well-planned system where they let people down into the tracks, and then you wait at the exact cart where you're gonna get on and where your seat is, and then you get on. And um, I also like to mention, because for a solo traveler, especially a solo traveler as a woman, I get asked a lot like, "Oh, did you feel safe? Did you have any trouble at night, walking around at night?" And I'm always very happy to say that I've never had any safety issues in China. As a woman, as a solo traveler, I've never been robbed. I feel very comfortable leaving my suitcases on trains in different carts and going to find it later. Um, and so I think, this is a place where I highly recommend any woman, any solo traveler to go. I never had a single issue with safety. So this is where the two coffee shop workers told me to go to this park. Um, and you were able to climb up some of the mountains, which are like the iconic mountains of Guilin, and look out over the landscape from the top. And I was the only person there, so it was really cool. But it was also like a little bit scary. You can't tell, but I was kind of shaking because it was just very high and the drop-offs were pretty steep. Um, but it's so stunning. It was absolutely stunning. So a little bit more about Guilin, which is very picturesque, known for its, very stunning landscapes and the rivers, um, for just being a very picturesque city. But Guilin also has a very long, very interesting, complex history that dates back to for thousands of years, but specifically, the Qin dynasty in around 220 to 200 BC. BCE, when it was established as a very small settlement along the Li River. And it became a key administrative and military center due to its strategic location in the region. And then during the Tang Dynasty, which was around 600 to 900 CE, and the Song Dynasty, which followed that, um, Guilin became a very cultural and economic hub, and it was a very inspiring place for poets and artists and scholars, and they would go to Guilin in the area because of its natural beauty, and so it became a place of artistic inspiration. It's home to lots of historical sites, like the Sun and the Moon pagodas, which you saw, and the Reed Flute Cave, which is a natural limestone cave that has inscriptions that go back to as early as, I believe, around 800 CE. Um, and also, in more recent history, during World War II, Guilin served as a cultural and political refuge for intellectuals and artists fleeing areas with a Japanese occupation. So it became a center of, resistance as well. Um, and in the 20th century, it became one of China's first cities to open up to foreign tourists in the 70s, I believe. So Guilin is now one of China's most popular tourist destinations. millions of people go every year, and the Lee River Cruise is a really one of the most iconic things to do, which takes you down the river in between the Course Mountains and is just really, really stunning, unlike anything else you'll ever do. Um, and Guilin also has invested a lot into tourism infrastructure, hotels, ecotourism initiatives, improving transportation. And I think in 2020 it became designated as an international tourism hub by the Chinese government. So they're really continuing to boost it. Um, and yeah, so Guilin's undergone extensive urban renewal, lots of modern architecture blended with old traditional architecture. So you'll see, the city skyline has some contemporary buildings alongside the iconic mountains and the old historical landmarks. And so these are just some more photos of the parks that I went to. I stayed in Guilin. I didn't take the Lee River cruise to Yangshuo because I had done that a few years ago with my family. But I had a little photo moment in the top with the mountain with the beautiful views. I think that might be the end of it. Yep. Okay. All right. So thank you all for joining. If we have any questions now, we have some more time at the end. If anybody has any questions. Yeah, I know. I had stayed in Yangshuo before, and it was such a beautiful memory the first time I went, and something about having such a beautiful, vivid memory of a place, like I felt like I didn't want to redo it and change that memory. Like I just wanted to leave it perfectly preserved. That's sort of why I didn't go back. Yeah, John.
Um, they're wonderful pictures. You've done a wonderful job. You've spent enough time actually explaining some of the history and background of these cities, and it's really terrific. But my question is, how did you get there? How did you arrange the visa, and um, and how did you arrange the traveling back and forth between different cities? Did you uh, you go to the train station, buy your own tickets, or did you have a travel agency do it? So I'm just interested in some of the mechanics of how you got back and forth.
Yeah, so this portion of the trip, I essentially planned my part myself. And it was sort of I think I would say it was very spontaneously planned. Like I hadn't bought the train tickets ahead of time. I bought them as I decided to go from one place to another. I think it was the same for Susie, and you can get the train tickets there's a few websites that help you buy train tickets in China. I can find the links to them, but it's really convenient. It'll show you when exactly the train is going from one place to another and how much that costs. And you can choose, oh, I want a window seat, oh, I want an aisle seat. So it's really easy. And most of the time they don't sell out as long as it's not like very popular holiday dates. So, I stayed in Chengdu. I basically, when I was in Chengdu, I was staying in a hostel and I'd be like, oh, I want to stay another night. So I would just go down to the front desk, be like, oh, can I stay another night? And then I would book my train ticket for the next day and then just leave and go and book a hostel on the way. So that was my experience. I didn't use a travel agent for this trip at all. Susie, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, there's a website called literally, I think it's just trip.com, and you can buy all your bullet train on there, your hotels. It's got great reviews. You can buy your tickets to museums, you name it. I think the only one that surprised me, it was that this like super, super popular museum in Xi'an was a week. So it was my bad for not realizing that. But otherwise, it's like super easy. And it links to like social media reviews of all the places. So I was similar to Megan, just sort of went with the flow, and then yeah, super easy.
Marlon?
Kai, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Since you both went to Chengdu, I wanted to ask about the gay life. I'm not sure if either of you were like particularly looking for that. Obviously, we don't have to share anything personal, but I've heard this stereotype or nickname and seen YouTube videos that Chengdu is called Gaydu because it's like far enough away from Beijing and the capital and politics, but still like a giant, vibrant city um, that is a mega city. So gay culture is supposed to be like very vibrant over there to the point again that they call it Gaydu. So just wondering if like you saw any of that because I didn't gather it from pictures, whether it be I don't know advertisements for clubs in the metro or people on the street that might dress in that typical style. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think when I went, I was not aware of Chengdu's of this of Chengdu being considered like I don't know the gay capital. But when I was there, like it was something that I noticed, I think, and that I later learned, oh, okay, yeah, and then I put it together, oh, this makes sense. It was definitely something I noticed, the gay culture and lots of like LGBTQ couples. Um, more so than I think I ever noticed anywhere in China, and it definitely I think stood out to me. But I did learn at a later date. Oh, okay, yeah, Chengdu, Gaydu. Um, so that was my experience. But Susie, do you have anything to add?
I would just say like in the street style, definitely. Like I had some photos of people getting dressed up, but definitely like very, you know, you name the style, you name it. I saw everything. And I think overall, like a couple of people remarked to me that it's just a very relaxed place and just like got a feeling that um, you can have fun and it's just really chill. Um, I'm not sure if it's true, but one person said, oh, because they have earthquakes, they don't, they'd have to deal with that, so they don't worry about other things. I don't know if that's true, but that's what one person said. But certainly I think I definitely noticed it in the style and just people on the street. And then I know somebody in our group, I think, no, I do think it was a Chengdu thing. No, that's different. They were just on the gay dating app. Somebody related to someone in our group. So I know they were meeting people that way, but yeah.
That's my son who always goes on the dating app and has 4 dates a day with different guys. I call it his, he's my investigator into the culture because he gets all the answers of like, what is it like right now? And he's made friends now that, he's been coming. And so they kind of just tell him what life is like, what they're upset about, what, how things play out given COVID or whatever. So he's just my explorer. There's a huge gay community, and he took me to well, and also like in Sonia, where the wedding photos are taken, you can see lots of same-sex couples, the queer scene. So it's all there. One person said to me, they're like, we don't understand what happens in America because like we have all these people coming telling us to get and like make it a big issue, and it's like, why is it an issue? It's like a personal thing, people or whatever. It's like what life is. It's not. They were like upset that it's just like, could you just tell the Americans to leave us alone? We're fine. That was I got that in an office I was at, talking about feminism and the insanity, if I could tell you just the stupidity of what these American feminists come tell them feminism is. So yeah, it was just leave us alone.
Thank you, Jody. Okay, John reminded me about the visa part of the question. Yeah, so we applied for visas ahead of time. Um, it's it feels a little complicated when you first do it, but it's very quick. Um, there's a application that you fill out, and then you just bring all your stuff into the Chinese embassy. Or if you don't live near a Chinese embassy, you have a designated Chinese embassy. You can either hire an agency to help you bring it there, um, or yeah, I think you have to actually if you don't live near an embassy. I personally live really close to the Chinese embassy in DC, so I just brought it in and it was done in 4 days. They gave it back to me, and I think it costs about $150. And it lasts for 10 years and multiple entries, 90 days. So I can go back anytime for 3 month period, whenever in the next 10 years. But for those who don't live near an embassy and you need to use an agency, it's a little bit, I do recommend doing that for some people that it's a bit easier, I think. They'll like do most of the stuff for you, but it does have an extra fee on top of it because you have to pay the agency. So I know.
The question was really what is in all the details of what all do you need to bring to the for the visa because it's changed over different years.
Yeah, that's I mean, I don't have the exact list, but I do have we do have a China travel page um that kind of details that a bit more. So I'll put that link in the chat, and I can also send it to everyone who's interested in a follow-up email. Um just the exact list of things that you need. And it has changed in recent years, but they've made it more easy for people, so you don't need to include your flights, you don't need to include anything about hotels, you just need the exact documents that they say you need on the website.
Yeah, I'd applied for a visa 20 years ago and for a job, and it was a lot more complicated then and felt a lot more strict. This time in London, it was like the friendliest guy at the front desk. I got the visa within, I think, 2, 3 days. In the consulate in London, you did need to put down a hotel and a flight, but I literally just booked a hotel that I could cancel, and the flight I could cancel as well, so I actually ended up using a different flight. So they were not strict about, oh, did you change your flight? So it was really, I went in thinking it was going to be a bit scary and, oh, would it be an issue if I, work in media or whatever? And it was super relaxed and super straightforward.
Yeah. Mike said in the chat, what are your other favorite places in China? Ones you would recommend, either futuristic and high tech or nature and beauty? I think one of my favorite places that I went a few years ago was the Yunnan province, which is it's western, like southwestern China. Um, just the most stunning natural scenic spots. The Tiger Leaping Gorge, um, Lijiang, the old town of Lijiang is so beautiful. Um, I went to Kunming, Lijiang, Dali, just very, very beautiful. Yeah, Dali. Yeah, Jody's been there as well. I think she loved it too. Um, you and John as well. So I highly recommend the Yunnan province, and I almost went back, but I thought I should see Sichuan province that I'd never been to before. Do you have any other favorite places, Susie?
No, you've been to more than me. So I think everywhere was just mind-blowing and over-delivered everywhere. So I've got so much more to see. But I think anywhere you go is just like over-delivers on the nature, on people, on food, on everything. So, but yeah, I haven't been to Delhi, which I'd love to go to.
Yeah. Okay, one more question, David.
Hi, thanks. Were you able to go from there into Xinjiang by the train and there was no travel restrictions or anything like that? Have you been there?
Yeah, we actually both had come from Xinjiang to Chengdu, and she went to Xi'an. Um, but there's no restrictions. It's actually really very popular tourist area to go to Xinjiang, especially for Chinese locals. And we had a whole webinar on Susie, me, and Jody, and some others that had visited Xinjiang, that I can put in the chat for you to learn more about. I think it was a pretty good, extensive. We covered
That'd
well.
be great.
Yeah.
Do you like work? I know Code Pink is very political advocacy and things. Do you find the strategy to prevent a war with China, which I totally get, is just to do things like this and help people to see them as not our enemy that's worth going into a war about, or how, or would you, yeah, how would you see CODEPINK's involvement with that?
Well, the goal of our campaign is to stop the US escalation of a Cold War with China. So we're really focused on the US aspect of that and not letting any situation within China, help the US to manufacture consent for war with China. So that's our focus. That's and their webinar around Xinjiang really, we were more concerned with humanizing the people who really nobody knows anything about in the US and what their lived experience was. So I definitely recommend you checking that out and hearing more of our thoughts about that, because we really do go into a lot more detail in our past webinar.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, and also just encouraging folks to say, if you can, just go see it for yourself. I've never been somewhere in my life, I think. Maybe, I guess I'm also half Iranian and it's similar there, but I've never been somewhere that's, my experience there was so different to the way I'd experienced it portrayed, in the media. So it was a real privilege to get to go. And so it's like, just to say, like, this is our experience getting to go. Sometimes we traveled alone, sometimes with the group, went to big places, new cities, old cities, rural areas, and just trying to sort of humanize it and demystify it a little bit, and sort of, so go check it out for yourself if you can. And if you can't, then get on Little Red Book and just speak to Chinese people directly. And again, like I said, like, being in England, like the news cycle's been really bleak in the last few years, and going there and just learning for ourselves and just meeting regular people was really nourishing, and just so different. Things are so divided and polarized over here, and just like, it's just a very, very different experience there. And yeah.
Thank you, Susie. So with that, thank you all for coming. I will send you a follow-up email with links to the China travel page and our past report back webinars. There's been a few of them, and there'll probably be a couple more. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Susie, as well. So everyone take care. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much.